Romance of Three Kingdoms Chapter 2. A furious Zhang Fei punishes a pompous official. At court Jian plots to destroy the eunuchs. Cao Cao joins the plot. Dong Zhuo is the governor of Hedong and he is incredibly overbearing and rude. It is this rudeness which so provoked Zhang Fei, but Xuanda and Guanyu just about managed to stop him. Dong Zhuo is an official, and it would be madness just to try and strike him down, they say. Unless we deal with him now he'll be ordering us about forevermore, and I won't stand for that, snarls Zhang Fei. You two can stay if you want, but I'm leaving. The three of us have sworn to stick together through thick and thin, says Xuanda. We can't be separated, so let's go together. Well, snaps Zhang Fei, we're off, then. That's good. They decide to go with their men to the camp of Zhu Jun, an imperial officer struggling against the rebel Zhang Bao. Soon after they unite with Zhu Jun, the armies clash. Zhang Bao, who is on horseback, unbinds his hair, and with his sword in his hand begins to chant magical spells. A thunderstorm breaks over Xuanda's troops, and a dark cloud descends on them from heaven. In the middle of the dark cloud innumerable horses and men appear. The imperial troops flee in panic, and Xuanda rushes back to report all this to Zhu Jun. So he uses occult powers, comments Zhu Jun, then tomorrow we'll sacrifice a pig, a goat and a dog. We'll make sure all the blood and entrails and excrement are collected together. Then when the rebels attack we'll throw this mess down upon them and then watch the occult forces evaporate. The very next day Zhang Bao appears again with his troops and invokes a great raging storm, filling the air with rocks and stones. The black cloud descends again, full of the same spectral horses and men. Xuanda pretends to flee, drawing the rebels and their ghostly forces in pursuit, when suddenly from the hillside the appalling mixture of blood and entrails rains down. Instantly the storm dies away, the cloud disperses, the paper men and straw horses collapse, and the rocks and pebbles fall to the ground. Zhang Bao and his men break and run. Zhang Bao is badly wounded and takes refuge in the city of Yangqing. Zhu Jun responds by besieging the city. During the siege news comes that Zhang Ju, the original leader of the rebellion, has died and that his son has been killed in battle. This news pushes Zhang Bao's own men to revolt. One of his own men kills him and carries his leader's severed head with him when he surrenders to the imperial forces. Three other rebel leaders emerge from the chaos, seeking revenge for the collapse of Zhang Ju's revolt. They set up their headquarters in the city of Wanqing. Here they are besieged by an army led by Zhu Jun and the three brothers in arms. The siege swings this way and that, until the imperial forces have to retreat. Zhu Jun retreats 10 miles from Wanqing and is surprised if not a little alarmed to suddenly see a troop of men and horses approaching from the east. They are led by a man whose face is broad and open. He is fit as a tiger, and his body is as strong as a bear's. His name is Sun Jian, and he is a descendant of the famous military writer Sun Zi, who wrote The Art of War. When Sun Jian was 17 and out walking with his father they saw a gang of pirates attack a merchant and then start to divide up his goods. Come on, we can capture these pirates, the young Sun Jian had said to his father and, drawing his sword, he rushed on them, shouting to left and right as if commanding followers to attack. This so frightened the pirates that they panicked and ran, but not before Sun Jian had cut one of them down dead. Locally he became famous for this feat when, many years later, a rebel arose who claimed he was the young Ming emperor. Sun Jian helped defeat his massive army, numbered in tens of thousands. When this was reported to the emperor, Sun Jian was made an official mandarin. So it was that, when the Yellow Headband Revolt broke out, Sun Jian recruited 1,500 men from the lands around the rivers Huai and Xi and marched off to help Zhu Jun in his struggles at Wanqing. Boosted by the new troops, Zhu Jun orders a full-out attack on the city. Sun Jian is the first to break through, killing 20 men by his hand alone. The revolt collapses, tens of thousands of rebels are executed, and the region is pacified. When they return in triumph to the capital city, Zhu Jun is rewarded for his courage. Sun Jian and Xuanda are mentioned in dispatches, and, as a result, because he has family connections, Sun Jian is promoted. However, nothing is offered to Xuanda. He becomes very disillusioned by this treatment. One day the three brothers are wandering around the capital when an official notices them and asks who they are. Xuande tells him about his victories, and how he hasn't been given any reward. The official asks permission to see the emperor and points out that, due to the interference of the 10 eunuchs who control the court, only their cronies are being appointed, and good men are ignored. This is the reason why rebellion is rife. Cut the eunuchs' heads off and expose them on the gates, the official advises the emperor. But the eunuchs outmaneuver him, and he is expelled from the court. However, this does alert the eunuchs to the dangers of bypassing worthy men, and in the ensuing rash of minor appointments, Xuande is made the magistrate of Anxi County. His two brothers-in-arms accompany him and join him in his duties and responsibilities. Xuande's justice is so honest and forthright that, within just 1 month, crime has ceased. However, this peaceful and successful life does not last. A few months later an inspector comes to Anxi. Although Xuande greets him with all due formalities, the inspector barely acknowledges him. He then quizzes Xuande on his claims about being descended from the imperial family, which the inspector proceeds to rubbish. It soon becomes clear that, unless the inspector is bribed, Xuande will be dismissed as a corrupt official. But as Xuande has never extorted even a single grain of rice from anybody, he cannot pay him off even if he wanted to. Soon Xuande is banned from even entering the court. One day, not long after the inspector has taken over, Zhang Fei rides up. He is already drunk and disgruntled and discovers some old people weeping outside the court. When he asks why they are so troubled, they say, "This inspector is forcing false statements out of people. He wants to destroy your master, and we want to plead his case. But they won't even let us inside to be heard." Hearing from these old people about the corrupt practices of the inspector, Zhang Fei loses his temper. Leaping down from his horse, he smashes his way in. Confronting the inspector, he roars, "Do you know who I am?" And before the terrified man can speak, Zhang grabs him by the hair and drags him outside. There, he ties him to a hitching post. Breaking branches from a willow tree, he lashes the inspector until his whips have broken into many pieces. Yet not that even this stops Zhang Fei from continuing to lash the man. Xuande hears the shouts and cries, and when he learns it is Zhang Fei he comes rushing. "Stop," he shouts. But Zhang Fei's anger is still raging, and he shouts back, "Such a louse as this needs to be squashed, or what else will he get up to?" Xuande, being a gentle person, tries again to stop Zhang Fei. Then Guan Yu turns up. He too feels the inspector should die, but he also points out to Xuande that the position the court has given him is barely worth his time, and that this pompous inspector has simply confirmed that he is destined for greater things. "Brother," says Guan Yu, using an old proverb, "does a glorious phoenix belong in a mere prickly bush? Let's finish him off and get out of here." Xuande removes his seal of office and hangs it around the inspector's neck. He tells him that because of his corruption, and the terrible damage this does to the ordinary people, they should kill him. "But we'll spare you, so take this back to the court," he says. Then he and his two brothers-in-arms mount their horses and, turning their backs on the inspector, ride away. Needless to say, when the inspector returns to his superior, he tells him what has happened, and orders for the arrest of the three brothers are sent out. But by this time the three are long gone and have taken refuge with friends. Back at the imperial court, the 10 eunuchs continue to get rid of anyone who stands in their way. The least worthy men are promoted, and this leads to rebellions breaking out across the land. Yet the 10 act as if nothing is wrong. Brave men still try to open the emperor's eyes to the evils the 10 are bringing upon the country, but the 10 claim they are the most loyal of subjects. And behind the emperor's back they are murdering everyone who stands in their way. Xuande is quietly recommended to help in the suppression of another revolt, and he is so successful that his offense against the inspector is forgotten. At last he is given a major post worthy of his talents and is made magistrate of Pingyuan County. Not long after, Emperor Ling falls into a terminal illness. This causes a major crisis. Who is to succeed him? The empress he has a son called Prince Bian. She has already poisoned the second consort, Wang the Beautiful, whose son, Prince Xia, was left to be raised by his grandmother, the emperor's mother, Empress Dong. He Jian, the Grand Administrator, is a man of humble origins. He is also the brother of the Empress and the uncle of Prince Bian. He finds himself caught between the conflicting claims to the throne. Plot upon plot is hatched until one man dares to speak out during a meeting of the council. "We've been under the control of eunuchs since the emperors Chong and Ji over 50 years ago," he says. "We must get rid of them. But how can we plan to kill them all without them discovering this and killing us and all our families? We have to be so very careful." The speaker is Cao Cao, who is by then a commander in the military. He Jian is just starting to respond when news comes that the emperor has died. Furthermore, the messenger says, the eunuchs are planning to keep this a secret until they have secured the succession for their own candidate, the young Prince Xia. Cao Cao immediately nominates He Jin's nephew, Prince Bian, as the heir, and he is joined in this declaration by Yuan Shao, who commands the troops of the capital. "Give me 5,000 soldiers," General Yuan Shao says, "and I'll storm the palace." He promises to place Prince Bian on the throne, kill the eunuchs, cleanse the court and restore harmony under heaven again. Inspired by this, they storm into the palace and in front of the coffin of the dead emperor they place Prince Bian on the throne and declare him the new Emperor Shao. Emboldened, they decide to wipe out all the eunuchs, but they have already fled to the protection of Empress He, who, elated by the elevation of her son to emperor, promises to protect them. In the confusion, Empress Dong, the dead emperor's mother, tries to reassert her power but fails, because the 10 eunuchs do not support her. She is sent off to the countryside, where she is murdered 6 months later. Yuan Shao still wants to exact revenge on the eunuchs, but Grand Administrator He Jin opposes this for the simple reason that the new emperor's mother, Empress He, his sister, is against it. "Who cares?" shouts General Yuan Shao. "Let's summon the brave men of the land and storm the capital, killing those eunuchs." This time Grand Administrator He Jin is swayed by Yuan Shao's enthusiasm and sends forth the order to summon the troops. And the person who supports him, while others stand against him, is Cao Cao, who says something that changes the tide of the destiny of the Han dynasty. As the saying goes, wise advice can counter the influence of treacherous officials, if and when it is heeded. So what is it that Cao Cao said? Let's find out.